Hi there, everyone. We're going to be talking about Netflix's recent fall of the House of Usher today, and whether it is yet again another example of an inverted hero's journey story. I think most would agree that Mike Flanagan's horror series is a clear revenge story, portraying objective villains in the form of 6 heirs to the Usher legacy, plus Roderick Usher and his sister Madeline. None of these characters are anyone the audience can root for, as each one is corrupt in their own right and embody the 7 deadly sins outlined in the Bible: pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, and sloth. This really isn't a new ploy in revenge stories such as these. There is a certain amount of satisfaction that the audience is afforded when each character gets their respective due deserts. So, which character is the audience left to root for, especially when all the main characters are so awful? Arguably, the only character that is somewhat humane and relatable is the narrator of the story, Roderick. But we learn through foreshadowing, and then at the very end, that he murdered his boss in one of the most gruesome fashions with the help of his sister. Him and his sister make the original deal that sets the course of the entire story, and who do they make the deal with? Well, that would be Verna, the only character that the audience is left to root for. She is the mysterious Grim Reaper-like figure whose name is an anagram for Raven, who dishes out the punishment to each person in turn. And before each murder she inflicts, she performs her own monologue, condemning the rotten Usher kid for their misdeeds, whether it is conducting debaucherous sexual acts, conducting shady human trials for a dangerous experimental surgery, or conducting immoral animal trials. In fact, there are 2 separate punishments she enacts as a result of cruelty to animals. So, Verna becomes the most obvious hero of the story, virtue signaling for human and animal rights, one by one before practicing her own eye for an eye code. We are first introduced to Verna as a bartender, greeting Roderick and his sister Madeline after killing a man. Then we see her at a rave, dressed as a scarlet woman, hearkening back to Babylon the Great, or the Whore of Babylon from Revelation. She is described in the last book of the Bible as someone adorned in purple and scarlet colors. In this incarnation, Verna's red gown is a clear giveaway, which also harkens back to the mysterious death-like figure whose attendance to the party ends Poe's classic Mask of Red Death story. The Whore of Babylon is also described as having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. That would also explain why she is also shown as a bartender and why she seals her final deal with Roderick and Madeline at the end with a drink from a bottle with a metallic relief on the front. In Revelation, she rides a scarlet beast with 7 heads. Well, we have 6 Usher children, and Roderick, which would be the 7th. He is also described as allying with 8 kings. If we add Madeline to the team-up, we have 8. Babylon the Great is also symbolized to be the seductive culture that corrupts God's people, and many have pointed to the major capitals of the time like Rome and Jerusalem. So our hero, the one we're meant to root for, is the ultimate seductress of decadence and indulgence that destroys culture. Thus, are the Ushers the antagonists, or are they the victims of Verna? Yes, Roderick and Madeline have already killed a man before they meet Verna, but the deal she makes with the twins is quite problematic. She offers them all the success they would ever want, to include that of their children, but they would all die together as the final caveat. In that case, does Verna have the right or moral fortitude to even virtue signal to each Usher child, condemning them for their evil deeds when she in fact made it possible for them to carry out their evil acts? The whole power in the messaging loses its steam when we are reminded that she is a demonic, if not satanic figure that makes deals with people to corrupt them and the world. Anytime the devil is depicted in fiction before, as in the Faustian deal cliche, does Satan ever virtue signal, berating the characters for choices that he in fact made possible? No, he laughs with a gleam in his eye, mocking them for trusting him. This series inverts the Satan figure so that it is now the wrathful God who carries out punishments according to the law spelled out in the Bible, thus condemning the 7 deadly sins. All we get is Verna, who says misty-eyed to a child that she's about to kill that she doesn't like this part of her job. It's quite a mind screw, as this is a character who is portrayed to have her own agency to undo everything she is allowed to carry out in the story. The animal cruelty, sexual depravity, drug abuse, murder, financial corruption, and AI run amok were all made possible by her. In fact, she wants these things to happen. She's the embodiment of the raven from Poe, which signifies the inevitability of death and that we are all fated for a mournful, sorrowful end. Verna curses Roderick out of one side of her mouth for all the people he killed with his deadly drugs, and out of the other, she makes deals with two people in a bar so that she can help make the world a worse place. And she does this by propping up some of the worst characters Flanagan could have written. She is the whore of Babylon, corrupting and seducing, and when all is said and done, she gaslights her victims into thinking they are the villains. I like a villain as much as the next guy, but only those with a clear motivation that we, as an audience, can love to hate or even sympathize to a taboo level. However, Verna is a confusing inversion that is meant to confuse and leave the audience wondering whether any of the characters were any good, interesting, or worth devoting any time or emotion to. It's a mind screw, but not a very effective one, as propping up a character to be a virtuous one and then flipping the script at the end to show that she set all the events into motion in a grand plan to scorch the earth. It leaves me as an audience member feeling pretty empty. If you're going to write a Satan figure that makes deals with its victims, make them consistent at least, as Satan isn't going to allow anyone to take credit for his destruction. The fact that Verna doesn't take credit but instead points her blood-stained fingers at the true victims of the series, the Ushers, makes this a lukewarm and very wishy-washy story indeed, that can't figure out whether it believes the moral virtues it spouts or fully despises them. Well, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Until next time, this is Brendan from Red Cave Books. I'll catch you in the next one.